So in the Thousand Arm Chenrezig practice, we recite the 8 verses of thought training. Of, and I have really been enjoying going through these verses and contemplating them and really sitting with them. And each one of them is a thought training in its own. And some of them have many topics and aspects in there really. And and yet they're all very interconnected too. And we have had some teachings on this, and several people here have done multiple BBCs on them, going through verse by verse. And I want to talk about them, my understanding of them, and I really want to talk about specifically verse 3, 4, 5, and 6. But I'm going to touch on all of them because they're so interconnected. And I'm going to try and do this pretty quickly. So the first verse, with the thought of attaining awakening for the welfare of all beings who are more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel, I will constantly practice holding them dear. So this is bodhicitta. This starts with bodhicitta. It's the mind of bodhicitta that we want to see all of these in context of. And it's about training our mind in bodhicitta, and it's about a lot more than that. But in order to develop bodhicitta, we need to see sentient beings as precious. And, well, imagine you had a wish-fulfilling jewel, and you could rub it, and it would give you anything you want, you know? Actually, sentient beings are like that in the way that everything I have comes from sentient beings. My possessions, even my body, whatever good qualities I have, even whatever good karma I have is created mostly in relation to sentient beings, also in relation to holy beings. All my knowledge, skills, all the things I think of as me and I, mine, everything, all of it comes about due to sentient beings. And there's a lot here to sit with one could sit with this for many, many sessions. And the enlightenment of all beings is our concern. And these verses are about transforming our mind, about cultivating bodhicitta, and about the practices that will lead us to awakening. So the second verse says, whenever I am with others, I will practice seeing myself as the lowest of all. And from the very depth of my heart, I will respectfully hold others as supreme. And this is not about despondency or cultivating a low self-esteem. And I've looked at this in 2 ways. One is about cultivating a healthy sense of humility, a sense of humility that's not contrary to self-confidence, but one that is compatible, even based on a healthy sense of self-confidence. And this counters arrogance. Mostly I look at this statement as this verse as a statement of exchanging self and others. And normally we see our own concerns, our wants, preferences, our getting our way or whatever. We see our concerns as supreme and others as secondary. And here we're talking about switching this and holding others' welfare as our main concern. And this is done with a healthy sense of humility. And this is one of the methods for cultivating bodhicitta. And it's also, this verse is describing the attitude of one who has bodhicitta, if you look at it. This is how bodhisattvas think. And verse 3, in all actions I will examine my mind, and the moment a disturbing attitude arises, endangering myself and others, I will firmly confront and avert it. This is the nuts and bolts of our practice. This is how we are supposed to practice moment to moment on in our day-to-day lives. And this is a great verse actually to bring to mind many times throughout the day. Countless times throughout the day, because The afflictions can make countless appearances daily. And this is such a big part of our practice, to be mindful of our mind, of what's going on with our mind, to recognize when the afflictions are arising, to recognize them as the enemy to myself and to others, and to immediately and firmly bring up an antidote. And so I've been looking at the next 3 verses as examples of doing this in a way. Each of the next 3 verses starts with a description of a difficult situation or somebody we see as difficult, and then goes on to give us a way to look at it in a different way that transforms our way of seeing it. And we can look at this both as being challenged by a challenging, difficult situation, or as an afflicted attitude arising that we need to transform, a story that we are telling ourselves that is concordant with an affliction. So often we are under the influence of the stories that we tell ourselves, and sometimes it's hard to let go of an affliction because we don't let go of our story. Even if it's as simple as not wanting to let go of why I'm angry, you know. When you're trying to deal with anger, the worst thing you can do is sit there and go over why you were angry. Because unless you're saying I'm angry because I'm telling myself a story, that might be more helpful, you know. But to just sit there and reaffirm our story, and we're so often caught up in that maybe we don't recognize, or often we don't recognize that is a story. It's just the way things are, and I'm seeing things clearly, you know. And this verse offers a way to counter the afflictions through transforming how we're seeing the situation, specifically how we're viewing the other person involved. And so that's how these next 3 verses are all do that. So verse 4, whenever I meet a person of bad nature who is overwhelmed by destructive energy and intense suffering, I will hold such a rare one dear, as if I had found a precious treasure. So I had difficulty with this, with the wording in this line at first. And so sometimes when I'm reciting this, I say instead of someone who is of a bad nature, I say someone who is in a bad mood, or someone who is habituated to a negative disposition, or even someone whose behavior I'm not liking at the moment. Because I'm trying to not confirm this story that this person's in bad nature. We all have Buddha nature, actually. Either way we look at it, we're telling ourselves a story about another person, you know, about a fellow sentient being, because we don't like their behavior at the moment or their attitude. And in this verse, this attitude of seeing them as a bad nature is immediately softened by, even within the description. And the second line says, who is overwhelmed by negative energy and intense suffering. That could be me. That could be you, you know. Who here has been overwhelmed by an affliction and had, you know, I'll raise both hands. If I had 1,000, I raise them all. So many times overwhelmed by afflictions in just this one life, you know. And so there is the possibility for me to empathize with this person that's in this state, and there's the possibility for me to cultivate compassion, see their suffering, cultivate compassion, and let go of my judgmental attitude. Already, even in this description of the situation and the person, there is this softening, this shift in the attitude. And the third and fourth lines give us the attitude we want to give rise to. I will hold such a rare one dear, as if I had found a precious treasure. So someone is acting out in a harmful way, or maybe just in a way that I find annoying. I could say to myself, I will not respond in kind. I will not tell off this jerk. But this is not the antidote that's really being suggested here. You know, if it keeps me from also acting out, from escalating the situation, it's kind of an antidote. It's but it's not thought transformation. It's refraining from negative action of body and speech. But if it's all I can manage at the moment, then it could be helpful. But a real antidote should turn the mind, and then the actions of body and speech will follow. So the antidote here is to recognize this person as precious treasure, to recognize the preciousness of this other being. Specifically, we want to recognize that this person is giving me an opportunity to cultivate fortitude, to cultivate compassion. And without some teaching, some study and reflection and meditation, in a challenging situation, I won't be able to really have the tools to deal with that. But also, without these challenging situations and actually practicing this in these situations, then I can study and meditate and contemplate and really not know what fortitude really is, not really know what compassion is, because I haven't experienced it. I haven't brought it up in the situation. So part of our learning is putting these things into practice. And without such a situation, whatever fortitude or compassion I have will not grow. And this person is giving me the opportunity to practice these qualities, to cultivate good qualities that I could not cultivate without such a situation, without this person. In chapter 6 of A Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, Shantideva has a conversation with the self-centered thought about this. And he says, with great clarity, if due to my own failings I am not patient with this enemy, then it is only I who am preventing myself from practicing this cause for gaining merit. If without something it does not occur, and if with it does come to be, since this enemy would be the cause of patience, how can I say that they prevent it? A beggar is not an obstacle to generosity when I am giving something away. And I cannot say that one who gives ordination is an obstacle to becoming ordained. There are indeed many beggars in this world, but scarce are those who inflict harm. For if I have not injured others, few beings will cause me harm. Therefore, just like a treasure appearing in my house without any effort on my own behalf to obtain it, I should be happy to have an enemy, for they are assisting me in the conduct of awakening. I really like that line there, assisting me in the conduct of awakening. And Shantideva has the same conclusion as Langri Tangpo, that we should see this person as a precious treasure. And then verse 5 is, when others out of jealousy mistreat me with abuse, slander, and so on, I will practice accepting defeat and offering the victory to them. When others out of jealousy mistreat me with abuse, slander, and so on. Again, how much of this is the story I'm telling myself? Out of jealousy, I can't confirm what their intention is or what the mental factors in that person's mind are. How do I know? Is what this person is saying or doing actually intended to be harmful, or is that my interpretation, my own sensitivities, the story I'm telling myself? Well, sometimes there is harmful intention, but still, even in that situation, what is the story I'm telling myself? How am I imbuing the situation with a lot of emotion? They you can't talk to me like that, that jerk, I gotta respond, blah, blah, blah. Oh, so yeah, how much am I charging the situation? How much am I attached to being right, to getting my way, to getting in the last word, to victory? And can I let it go? Can I let the other person say their piece without having to refute and respond or whatever, without having to set them straight? And can I let them get their way without resenting it? And the text says, I will practice accepting defeat and offering the victory to them. Actually, we can accept defeat in this situation by letting the other person get their way, and in turn defeat our anger or our attachment or whatever affliction is driving us at the moment, Or we can insist on getting the victory ourselves, making sure they know we're right, and be defeated by our anger or whatever affliction that is pulling our strings. And if we're really sincere in our determination to become fully awakened for the benefit of all beings, then this is the greater loss. This is the more significant defeat. And in the third and fourth verses of the Dhammapada, the Buddha said, he abused me, he beat me, he defeated me, he robbed me. And those who harbor such thoughts, hatred will never cease. He abused me, he beat me, he defeated me, he robbed me. In those that do not harbor such thoughts, anger will cease. And practicing accepting defeat and offering the victory to them needs to be done in the context of the opening verses, constantly holding others dear and holding their welfare as our supreme concern. Again, like with the previous verse, here's a rare and precious opportunity for us to practice the conduct that will lead to awakening. And the other person is instrumental, even indispensable in this. And in verse 6 says, when I have benefited and when someone I have benefited and in whom I have placed great trust hurts me very badly, I will practice seeing that person as my supreme teacher. Now to me, that one really sounds like a story. Yeah, I'm telling myself, oh, I thought they were my friend, and then he said something negative about me in front of everybody, Or I helped them out, and now I need some help, and they're too busy with some silly deadline or something, Well, but maybe they are really busy, Or maybe they just made a comment and didn't know how oversensitive I was about that, Whatever. They're giving me an opportunity to look at my faults, and an opportunity to look at my unrealistic expectations, and the opportunity to challenge and change my habitual ways of responding to others when they don't act in a way I like, and learn to take things in stride. And again, the thought here is to respectfully, the thought to cultivate is to respectfully hold others as supreme. Here it says, practice seeing that person as my supreme teacher. This person has given me the opportunity to learn, to practice cultivating the good qualities I'm seeking to cultivate, giving me the opportunity to transform my mind. And regarding the first verse, I talked about how sentient beings are like a wish-fulfilling jewel. But actually the text says more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel. Even if I had a magic jewel that I could rub and it would give me whatever wonderful sights and sounds and smells and tastes and bodily comfort and pleasure that I want, it would be less precious than sentient beings who offer me the precious opportunity to practice the conduct that leads to awakening. Our enlightenment depends on each and every sentient being. And then verse 7 says, In short, I will offer directly and indirectly every benefit and happiness to all beings, my mothers. I will practice in secret, taking upon myself their harmful actions and suffering. And everybody here in the room recognizes this. I'm sure this is Tonglen, the giving and taking meditation. And this is a tool for cultivating the attitude of exchanging self and others. This is also a description of the attitude held by those who have developed bodhicitta, who have developed even the attitude of exchanging self and others. This is how bodhisattvas think. So much to meditate on here, both with doing this meditation in the context of so many different sentient beings and their sufferings, and also in cultivating the power and beauty of this attitude we're trying to cultivate, and this attitude of bodhicitta that will lead us to full awakening. And verse 8, without these practices being defiled by the stains of the 8 worldly concerns, and by perceiving all phenomena as illusory, I will practice without grasping to release all beings from the bondage of the disturbing, unsubdued mind and karma. So from the point of view of the 8 worldly concerns, most of what's in these verses doesn't make much sense. We have to have a much broader and vaster view. And specifically here, it's alluding to we have to develop the proper view of reality, understanding of emptiness. We have to put in all the work. And all the Buddhas, they were all sentient beings, and they put in great amount of work to benefit us. You know, we have a sign in the shop that says, I am a servant of others. I want to become the best servant of others possible. I want to become a Buddha. And to do that, I have to put in all the work, and that includes putting in all the study and meditation and effort to transform our minds and understand emptiness. And but through sincere practice, through receiving teachings, study, meditation, and putting this stuff into practice in our daily lives, we will, especially the kind of things we learn in these verses and what our teachers teach us, we can progress, and slowly the lotus will rise from the mud.